Hello, welcome everybody. This is Julian from Straight From a Scientist. I'm here with Lyss, also known as Alyssa. She's studying exercise physiology, and I actually did my undergraduate degree in exercise science, which is basically like the sister or brother of exercise physiology. So we have a lot in common, but she seems to be, the expert in the field, so I'm excited to talk to her. And so introduce yourself, Lyss. How are you doing today?
I'm good. So I guess I'll go through a little impromptu
Yeah.
introduction of myself then. Okay. So I'm Alyssa Olenick, or Lyss, as I'm known on my internet presence. And I'm currently getting my PhD in exercise physiology. I just started this past year, so I still have a long road ahead of me. I wouldn't quite call myself the expert quite yet, but that is, hopefully 4, 10, 15 years down the road from now, that's the path I'll be on in the area that I'm in. So I'm currently studying at the University of Georgia, and my master's degree is in the same thing. So I've kind of been on this path since I was like a little girl. This is just always what I've kind of wanted to do in some way or another. And I am better known as my fitness presence as Little Lyss Fitness. But behind the scenes, I'm actually a PhD grad student researcher, and I'm really interested in the implications of exercise and nutrition and how they play on disease prevention and treatment. So that's kind of like the really, really quick introduction of who I am and what I do.
Really cool, really cool. Now I wanted to ask you specifically, what is your PhD project? Are you focusing on one aspect, or just in general, health and disease prevention? Or
Yeah, so I don't know what my official final dissertation project will be yet. So I just started this fall. So I actually did start testing this month or last month in June for my first project. So the way it works with PhDs is generally like in your master's, you just have one big project that you do. And I completed my master's project about a year ago. So I'm kind of adapting what I did in my master's and bringing it here to UGA. So to give you some background with that, my master's thesis was on a concept known as metabolic flexibility. And I did this in African American and Caucasian women that were both lean and obese. And I fed them a single high fat meal, and I looked at how their metabolism shifted and responded in response to that meal stimulus. So I took that kind of methods, and brought them here. So I'm doing an 8-week dietary intervention currently. And before and after the dietary intervention, we're having people come in fasted, and we're assessing resting metabolism and then having them ingest a high fat meal. And then we're assessing their metabolic response to that, as well as looking at markers of like body composition, things like that. And then the 8-week diet intervention is more of it's a healthy diet, high protein, really well distributed throughout the day. And it's a caloric deficit. So it's a weight loss intervention. And then we're going to do the same post-metabolic and body composition assessments at the end of the 8-week trial. So that's my first PhD project. And then from there, we'll just build into a second or third. And then I'll either have 3 or 4 total by the end that will make up and essentially they're just little baby stepping stones that take you closer to that final dissertation project, which will be my big final hurrah. So they'll all encompass that. So I'll probably stay in that range of metabolism, and I'm really interested in nutritional strategies and things like that. And just metabolic efficiency. But so, yeah, that's kind of my starter baby project right now that I just got started on. So it's just in its infancy right now.
really cool, really cool. Now I want to hear more about this diet, and so you have a group of individuals, and they're coming to you doing some tests before, and then you give them kind of a diet that they stick to for 8 weeks, and then they come back and do more testing, right?
Yes. So the diet templates are kind of new, and we actually got them from an industry partner known as Renaissance Periodization. So I hope if they hear this podcast, they're like, hey, this is great advertising
for them.
Shout
out.
Yeah. RP Strength, or Renaissance Periodization, is like a leading sports nutrition company, and they have a bunch of exercise physiologists, nutritionists, medical doctors, or high-end PhDs that work for them. So everyone who works for them is credible. So they came out with these new healthy diet templates that are not so sports nutrition specific, but actually just more Gen Pop, everyday person who just wants to be healthier, and they're moderately high protein. And then the rest of it is just focusing on quality composition of your meals. So adequate carbs, fat, and lots of veggies. And then it gives them kind of free range of so many calories every day, depending on their body size, that they can kind of do what they want with. So it's a very well-designed way for the average person, eat a healthy diet, eat all those healthy foods, but still be in a caloric deficit and enjoy their cookie or their ice cream or their chips at the end of the day if they really want to. So we're using that as our 8-week dietary intervention, essentially assessing a moderately high protein diet composed of healthy foods and the effects that has on metabolism and body composition in individuals, and seeing if those types of templates are adherable and easy to use.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was going to get at. I mean, are they customized based on the person? So they come and they do some tests and then you say, okay, your diet will be more or less this, right?
Yeah, so the amount of protein, carbs, and fats and calories is different, and it's based on every individual's body size. So a 220-pound man is going to get like a totally different template than a 130-pound woman.
Now,
but
body
it's
size,
the same.
Sorry to cut you off. I meant by body size, like, now are you using BMI? Are we using body fat percentage, a combination of the both? Because I know that has a huge effect, right?
Yeah, so since these are more like general population healthy diet templates, they're just based off body size. So they're not based on anything else. They're just saying, okay, if you're a 150-pound female, you're going to get this template, because based off like the estimations of like normal body weight ranges, you're probably going to need this many calories, yada yada yada. So it's very generalized. They're templates, right? So it's not personalized nutrition. It's not like, you know, someone coming to me and I'm saying, this is your personalized macronutrient profile that I want you to stick to for 6 weeks. You know what I mean? Update me each week. It's kind of like it's a template, more or less. So it's like you have to put some generalizations factored into that, of course.
That's the biggest problem with diets, right? Is that, you know, it's hard to get a one size fits all, and you kind of have to have like a 5 size fits all, or like, you know what I mean? You have so cool. Well, cool.
Yeah. So
yeah, I was gonna ask you one more question, because I know it's hard, especially with diets, to know, you know, the people come and they go home, and how do you know what they're eating, you know? So are they logging everything and hopefully not lying to you about the late night cookies that they eat, or?
Yeah. So when they come to pre-testing, you have like a sit down chat with them. I mean, my pre-testing sessions are like 4 hours long. So I talk to them for probably like the whole time, but at least an hour of that in between. So we test their metabolism like at 4 different time points during the day. So during those breaks, I kind of chat to them about how to use the template, how it works, what foods to include in it.
Not to
and so
lie.
with that, so I tell them, I say, listen, like if this was just your general day-to-day life, you could kind of, you know, go on and off the template. But the more you stick to anything, the better the results are going to be. The more you adhere to it, like the more valid it's going to be, versus like 3 days a week of only sticking to it versus not. And I say this is a scientific research study. Like, we're asking you to give us 100%, but I would rather you give me 90%, 100% of the time instead of 100%, 30% of the time. So I tell them that even if they go off the diet, so we check in with them every week. We send them an email and say,
at least, right? I mean,
So I say, like, we send them an email each week. We say, how many days did you stick to the template? How many days did you eat off? If you ate off, like, how off were you eating? And then, like, even if they didn't track a meal, I ask them to like tell me what they ate. So say they went to McDonald's and got like, you know, a Big Mac with a large fry, like they can report that to me and I can still quantify their nutrition that they got from that, even if it wasn't on the template. So I ask them basically like whether they're following it or not to record everything, because everything's a data point for me in the long run.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, exactly. That's what I was trying to. It's just hard. I think it's really hard, you know, especially with diet. You can't be there watching them the whole time, and you know, cool. Let's get into some other stuff. That's really cool. I think your project is excellent. I'm excited. You're gonna have to let me know about your results. That's really cool. I wanted to ask you, what kind of diet do you use? You know, or do you even follow a diet, or do you have kind of like some basic general rules, or what kind of?
So when I use the word diet, I always like to preface it in the fact that diet doesn't always have to mean being in a caloric deficit, right? Our culture really integrates that idea that like, if you're on a diet, you're trying to lose weight, you hate your body, like it's a punishment, it's like negative, it's a temporary period of like, you know what I mean? Like restraint, and then you let go. So when I say diet, I mean just like the structural form of eating that one chooses to follow. And there's a million ways to do that, right? So personally, the way I eat is a mix of, every once in a while, I'll track my macros to get on track. But for the most part, I mean, I've been doing this for so many years. I'm pretty good with being intuitive with what my body like wants and needs. I eat a high protein diet. I probably eat between 100 to 125 grams of protein a day, and I'm like a 130-pound female. So that's pretty high considerably.
That's good.
Yeah, I eat a pretty high protein diet. I'm fairly active, so I know for recovery and muscle retention and muscle growth, like that's what works best for me for like what I'm trying to achieve with my goals. And I hate to say the term eat clean because what does that even mean?
Yeah.
But I eat a pretty like vegetable dense, fruit dense, like fiber dense diet. A lot of my meals are like a protein source, a vegetable source, and some sort of whole grain or fruit, things like that. I also eat quite I would say a high carb diet. I am very active, so I need more carbs to support my activity level, but I eat between like 250 and 400 grams of carbs a day.
Yeah,
so when people are like worried
for some reason,
yeah. So I want to say that disclaimer that I do eat a pretty, depending on how, intense my activity is at the time, I do eat a pretty moderate to high carb diet, to support my goals and just like my body and my energy levels within those goals. So I would say from an outside looking in, I mean, my diet's probably like what people would think would be like a super healthy person's diet. You know what I mean? But I'm not perfect. I love sweets.
Yeah,
I'm pretty rigid about most things in my diet. So like I eat ice cream like maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Like, you know what I mean? Like I eat chocolate every day. Like I'm not apologizing for that. So I'd say I follow like a 90-10 rule within my diet. So yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, I feel like people, they get too stressed out about eating perfect, and then and then when they can't adhere to the diet or their diet, then they go and end up eating trash for a week, and then they try again super strict, and then they eat up. You have to have something that you can stick to and something that's reasonable, right? So I
absolutely agree. Yeah. I think the biggest problem nowadays is people are trying to be on one extreme or they're not, and not thinking about adherence. Like me eating ice cream 2 days a week helps me stick to my diet more than being super strict and then unraveling for a week. So that little bit of room for error is actually going to get me more success in the long term. And that for most people, once that clicks with them, they're like, oh my gosh, why didn't I realize this years ago? So
exactly. I wanted to see, what are your thoughts on, there's a bunch of fad diets. Fad diets, I don't know if they're fad diets, but there's a lot of diets that, are very popular now, especially in the health and fitness world. I wanted to ask you about ketogenic diet. What are your thoughts?
I assumed that question was coming. So I think that when I talk about keto, a lot of people think that I'm anti-keto, and I'm not. I think keto is an excellent option for a lot of disease states like epilepsy and even diabetes and epilepsy. It's huge. I mean, diabetes, it shows a lot of success with. I'm not saying that other diets don't work, but it does show success. You can't deny that with it. But I think that there's that dichotomy where people think it's all or nothing, that, okay, well, like it's all due to carbs and it's all due to the carbohydrate insulin theory of obesity and all these things. So everyone's like, oh, keto's the only way to do it. And I think it's the misinformation around it that bothers me. So keto is great. And for some people, it really works. I mean, eating higher fat, sometimes that allows people to have less, they feel less hungry, so they have higher satiety, so they don't feel the urge to eat. But just following a rigid diet like that to begin with removes a lot of processed, hyper-palatable, carb-fat combo foods that people tend to overeat. So that just improves diet composition to begin with.
That's a good point.
From a physiological perspective, there are definitely changes at the molecular level that we're still not totally sure of what the full picture of is and how your body shifts to being able to use more fat and what that means long-term and things like that. But from just a general person's perspective, it's just a way to indirectly cut calories without having to track them. And a lot of keto people will say, oh, but it's not tracking calories. Yeah, it's not, but indirectly you are controlling your caloric intake in a way by removing a lot of foods you tend to overeat, or you know what I mean? Like you're just changing your diet composition in general. So I think that it's a great tool and an option for some, but it's not the second coming of Jesus in form of a diet.
If that sometimes makes sense. Yeah. Well, for me, it's fascinating because I'm working in neuroscience now, and to see the studies done on epileptic patients is crazy. Yeah. To see the success rates, and I wonder, but why? And I don't know. It's just crazy. I think there's a lot more studies need to be done on it, but I think, like you said, if used correctly, it can be great. But it's also really difficult. I don't know if you've ever tried it. I have tried it in the past, and it's really hard, it's really
I
hard.
think it's hard to adhere to, and the biggest qualm from just like a dietarist perspective, maybe not like changing your physiology at a, you know what I mean, like through a diet type level, but like with keto, you can't really fall off and get back on. With most other diets, if you fall off for a day or two or a weekend, like it's kind of, you can just get back on the horse with Monday, but with keto, you have to wait that 3, 4, 6 weeks sometimes for your body to become fat adapted, and you have to stay within ketogenesis and things like that. So there's a little more rigidity.
I guess it depends how
that.
long you fall off on, right? I mean, I think your body adapts to using fat, and the next time you go into keto, it's a little bit faster, from my understanding.
It is a little bit. I'm just saying, like
hard.
that tier that people often do with diets isn't as feasible.
And carbs are amazing, so how can you say no?
Hey, we all know I'm pro carb. I'm not anti keto, but I am pro carb. So I'll say that.
Another fascinating.
So no one comes and attacks me.
Yeah, nobody's gonna attack you. Don't worry. Another crazy thing. I was in Italy recently for a couple weeks, and their diet is basically based on carbs. But I see everybody. This is obviously my general, stereotype, I guess, or what I saw. Everyone is so healthy, lean, skinny, walking around. You know what I mean? And you try to think, but carbs in the U.S. now are like the devil, and people are, they have a really bad rap. But in other countries, people eat carbs every day and they're healthy. So, they have the highest or the longest, rate of living, I guess. What is it? What am I trying to say?
Like longevity.
Longevity.
And like
life expectancy.
Risk
That's
of
what I'm talking about. And this is crazy. So I don't know. There's a lot of, a lot more studies need to be done. But anyway, cool. Okay, last diet that I want to ask you about. You ready?
Yes. Yes.
This one is really close to home for me. It's something I've been doing more or less on and off for the past couple of years. I'm a big faster, and especially like intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
I love it. For me, to split up my days into like hard work and then relax and eat is something for me. It's like excellent. And I don't know. I wanted to know your opinion on that.
So I have done fasting before. I did it in my master's for a little bit there. One, because it means it was one less meal I had to pay to feed myself.
Exactly,
which
and
sounds
it's
so
cheaper
sad.
too. It's so cheap.
I didn't eat to lunch every day, and it saved me money. I did it when I stopped powerlifting, and I wanted to lose some of the weight I put on from like a really long bulk. So it was a really easy way for me to control, because I didn't have the food quality accessibility in my master's as much as I do now. So to control calories, fasting was a great way to save money and control calories. So I did do that. So I'm definitely think fasting, once again, it's just a really good tool. So once again, there's like the what's actually happening at a molecular level side of things, or like what people want from like a dietary standpoint when it comes from fasting. So from a health standpoint, I mean, it's a lot more animal model studies. So we haven't seen it. We don't have any like human long-term. Yeah, we don't have anything like human long-term quite yet to say like this is like pretty much based in like scientific fact or theory. But there's, it increases mitochondrial autophagy. So you're removing, mitochondrial debris, you have healthier cells. And they think like that stems back to the mitochondrial theory of aging. It can help, with brain type things. I'm sure neuro is more of like your expertise. I don't know a whole lot about that. But it can improve a lot of things at the molecular level, especially with mitochondria, and, improve insulin sensitivity, because you're just not eating and giving like that glucose stimulus to your cells. So there's that. And are those benefits that have been shown a lot in animal studies. We're not sure if that's the mitochondrial theory aging is like the all, end all be all of like longevity, but it's an idea. So those are some of the benefits with that. From the dietary side, it's great, right? Because you don't have to think what's like between 12 to 16 hours a day. You don't have to think about eating, right? You can just kind of go about your day and live your life. And then as soon as you enter into your feeding period, it still comes down to that caloric control, but it's a lot easier to control that because you're only hungry for those two meals that you're eating in during.
You don't have enough space in your stomach. This is something that happens to me. When you're fasting, your stomach shrinks throughout the day, and by the time you start eating, you're like, I'm not even hungry anymore. So that's been my experience.
So say you're trying to be in a caloric deficit and you eat a standard breakfast of say 300 to 500 calories, right? Yeah. I mean, if you remove that and you eat your normal lunch and your dinner, well, there you are eating your normal food. You don't have to track anything. You don't have to feel like you're locked into your MyFitness app on your phone, but you're indirectly just doing that. It's just like with keto, or like if you go even low
It's
fat,
just a
like
tool,
you're just,
like you're saying. Yeah.
it's just a tool. Yeah. So if you want it for the health and longevity benefits, I say great. If you want it for like the helping you control your diet and your hunger a little bit more, awesome. It's like what I said, it's a great tool, and there's tons of proven benefits for it, but it's no more so than any other controlled, you know what I mean? Controlled quality diet.
No, and I agree with you. You know, for me, it's not so much, well, I guess it's not so much about staying healthy, you know, well, as far as healthy, I mean, you know, not obese and diabetes and stuff like that. But for me, it's more about, you know, my work output. I'm way more focused when I'm fasted. I'm way, I don't know, it's just, for me, it's a more mental advantage that I use to get a lot of work done. And then when I'm eating, I hear, you know, the way I think about it is like when you're eating, you know, it's rest and digest. The parasympathetic nervous system is activated, right? And when you're not, you know, think about like a hungry lion. You know, would you rather walk by next to a hungry lion, or would you rather walk next to a lion that just ate a huge meal? You know, obviously. Yeah. So, you know, I don't know. For me, it's more of a mental advantage that I get. And, you know, when I'm in the morning, like when I'm fasted, I'm working so well in the morning. I get a lot of work done. And when I start to eat, I start to just want to relax and chill and not really work that hard. I mean, but, you know, it's like I said, it's not something I do every day, but it's something It's a tool, right? With. It's just a tool, you know. And if I eat like shit one night, for example, and go have McDonald's and whatever and some beers, then it feels good to fast the next day, at least in the morning, afternoon, you know, to kind of clean out my body from all that trash. And so I don't know. Yeah. But one thing I don't like about it, and I have to be honest, is if I go to the gym fasted, I just don't have the same energy levels as I would if I had, you know, some pre-workout carbs, for example.
Yeah. And so that carb and protein mix beforehand does, you know, it does make a difference and improvement. Especially if you're not like used and conditioned to like training fasted.
You just gas out, you know. I mean, I can work hard for 20, 30 minutes, and then I start to gas out. I'm like, I just don't have the energy to push through the reps anymore. And, you know, that's my only complaint. But, you know, you can't get it. You know, there's no one size fits all. There's no free lunch, right?
No. And sometimes a fasted workout is better than no workout. So, I mean, like today I went fasted to the gym today, and it's not ideal for my long-term goals. But every once in a while, it's like, well, I have to get to work. I don't have time to eat and digest. So I'm just going to get up and go. So.
Yeah, cool. What else? So, yeah, anyway, I've been, you know, those are my questions for you. What about, are you a calories in, calories out type girl? Like, there's been a whole bunch. There was a study. Asterisk. Wait, really quickly. There was a study, I think it was about McDonald's. They're like, it doesn't matter what you eat. It's all about calories in versus calories out. There was a strong movement about that. I don't know. If you agree with that.
So, I am a calories in, calories out person, but I have to say it with the asterisks of that I still believe that like food quality and composition matters, if that makes sense. So you could eat an entire diet. Say your maintenance calories is 2,000 calories and you eat 1,800 calories every day from McDonald's. Over time, you will probably lose weight. It won't be ideal. Your inflammation might be up. You know what I mean? Like your metabolic, physiological response might not be as ideal, but theoretically you'll lose weight gradually over time. Versus, I mean, I believe that if you eat a really, you know, you're going to have better results if you're eating like, you know, a moderately adequate protein diet with like, you know what I mean? Like fiber rich carbohydrates that aren't as, you know what I mean? Fast releasing and like healthy fats. So I do think that quality matters. I also think that there's a lot more coming out to this now, that calories in, calories out is at the middle. Like energy balance is at the middle of this huge, like plethora of other things that play into that. So it does come down to energy balance at the end of the day, but there's things like psychosocial, economic, environmental, like psychological, genetic, you know what I mean? Like all these different factors that can manipulate that energy out balance. So yes, I am calories in, calories out, but I won't disagree that there's like 1,000 other factors that play into that. And so
that's why it's so complicated, right?
Yeah. And it's hard because for most people you can say that blanketed statement that, it's calories in, calories out. And for most people that works, but then you get people, I mean, when people have been obese or overweight for a long period of time, those factors start to change. You know what I mean? Like other things are playing a role there that aren't just, you know what I mean, calorie balance at that point anymore. So it's definitely, I say that with like an asterisk.
Always
and
with an asterisk, yeah.
with an asterisk, because people, I mean, it's energy balance is what it all most diets come down to. It's just everything is always, studies only publish the means. There's always going to be those outliers above or below that mean that, you know what I mean? That didn't really apply to necessarily as perfectly in an ideal controlled world. So
exactly. Well, speaking about calories in, calories out, I wanted to bring up something we were talking about before the podcast about where fat goes. You made a really cool Instagram post today that I saw, and I want you to explain just a little bit about what happens to fat, because this is something I remember wondering about a couple of years, like where does it even go?
Yeah.
So explain to us what happens when you lose fat. It just disappears, or
yeah. So a lot of people think things like that. It just literally disappears. It it becomes a waste product, or they think it turns into muscle, which the way muscle and fat work and interact with each other, that's just not physiologically possible. They're two distinctly separate tissues in the body. So that just comes from people just being misinformed on their own anatomy. But it's a really fun fact, because I did this as a prompt with my students actually this year. I asked them, well, where does fat go, when we were learning about substrate utilization? And that sparked the idea of the post a couple months back. And then my friend tagged me in it today. So what happens is your fat actually just gets broken down simply into oxygen and water. So the way it works in the body is you break down carbs or fat, and they all get broken down into one common molecule known as acetyl-CoA. And that's kind of what gets broken down and stripped apart in the citric acid cycle and the electron transport chain. And for my non-super sciencey followers, just think of it like as an energy making factory in the body. And so it breaks down these molecules into little carbon fragments. And when they do that, it releases carbon dioxide, and then takes all these electrons to this thing called the electron transport chain. And there it goes through this whole systematic process of like these electrons doing all these like mitochondrial interactions, and at the very science things, magic wand, boom, without going too far into depth of like the whole process of glycolysis. But at the very end of that, you get energy, and that's what makes you produce energy in the gym or walking or just breathing. But at the very, very end, the last byproduct of that whole entire process is water and half of an oxygen technically, but there's so many interactions it becomes a whole oxygen. So really what happens is you're breathing out the CO2 or that oxygen, and then you're either sweating or excreting that water as urine. So really you actually like breathe in, pee, and sweat it out. And so I think kind of knowing those things is fun for people, because it helps make fat loss make more sense, because it's like, okay, like I actually have to metabolize my adipose tissue basically, and that it's not this instantaneous thing. And so weight loss and fat loss are very different in that regard. So I think
sweat, and hard work, and exactly. Really cool. Yeah, it just made me think about, it's like a car, you pour gasoline into it, but then where does the gasoline go? It comes out the exhaust pipe. Yeah. It's a byproduct.
It evaporates it comes out.
It's the same thing. That's really cool. Really cool. I wanted to,
so next time you're in the
No, tell me.
I was gonna say next time you're in the gym, just think you're just breathing in everyone else's fat.
That's disgusting.
I know, right?
Oh my God! Thank you for this horrible image. So the gym is just a cesspool of fat in the air, I guess, right? Just cool.
Yeah.
Good to know. So you're in the health and fitness world. I want to ask you something about injuries. How do you deal with injuries? In my personal journey in the fitness world, it's every once in a while you get an injury and it sucks. You get depressed, you can't exercise. How do you deal with that? What is your how can you keep a healthy body to prevent injuries? Is there a dietary factor in this? Is there what is your opinion on just injuries?
So I have had like every injury under the sun. To give some background, I have a condition known as like I had like severe ligament laxity. So what that means is that all my ligaments and connective tissue are just like so overly flexible that like they just get injured constantly. And I like my shoulders pop out of the socket and my joints hyperextend. And I just feel like I've been injured for the last 5 years. So to say that I handled them well initially is not true. I love to work out. I love to push my body. I love to be active. I'm really good at like pushing myself to my limits, but I'm not really good at putting on that gas pedal. And I'll be the first to admit that, both academically, fitness-wise. Yes. I mean, I can run. Yeah. So it's hard for me. But I think as I've become more educated, I actually worked as like an exercise rehab specialist for a couple of years there in the end of college and then between my college and my master's. And I learned a lot of things to, help prevent, but also treat. And I think for me, I've come to a point that like sitting out a couple days or a week or even a month sometimes suck, but you're gaining back so much more time in the long run if you need to, and that you don't always need to cease movement entirely, right? So movement increases blood flow to tissue, and that can help with the recovery. So sometimes, like, I pulled my hamstring in my ultra marathon in April, and so I took like a month off, like really heavy activity, but I still did some very light cardio and walking and like things like that, because that blood flow can still help. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to, unless you have like a shattered bone or a torn ACL or something like that.
You want
but for
blood
little
flow. Yeah, exactly.
But I think that it's being smart and like listening to your body. And if something's flaring up, knowing the difference between a pain and an injury. And I think as an athlete my whole life, like my dad always integrated that with me. Like if something's just like, okay, you're just being a baby, like you're fine, versus like, hey, this is like a red flag. I'm going to take a couple of days to see how this feels. And then maybe I need to go see a doctor. So I've gone to a sports med doc a couple times in the last couple of years, just because I'm at that age now where I'm smart enough to know, okay, I should get this assessed to make sure that what I'm doing is safe and not further damaging my body. And then I guess from a nutritional perspective, is that, I mean, having a diet filled with micronutrients is so vital for recovery and repair and adaptation and things like that. So I think a lot of people, especially in that, like, if it fits your macros mindset of like, I can eat all the crap I want and you can still have a decent body. But from like a performance and recovery perspective, I mean, especially now that I'm getting really heavy into ultra marathon training, I mean, I try to get in as many vegetables and fruits as I possibly can, and like those lean proteins and those, whole grains, because they have a lot of nutrients that help in those recovery processes. I mean, all those vitamins and minerals are a catalyst in chemical reactions that our bodies are dependent on. So you need those. So, but again, I'm very pro diet composition because of that. You need those things. But also not training too quickly, being patient with yourself, not trying to push yourself too hard, too fast. Even if you used to be really good in shape, you're going to have to be slow off the bat.
That's my problem. I'm like,
yeah.
I used to be able to do this, bench press X amount of weight, and then I go in, and I'm like, oh, it's been a couple months, and then boom, there you go, tearing something.
And that's the thing, is like form over weight moved, like put your ego on the side. I know a lot of people who used to be athletes and run. Yeah. So even I was running 50 miles a week at the end of training for my first ultra, but then when I got hurt and I took a month off, I mean, I started back up at running 6 miles a week, right? I wasn't in that shape anymore.
So ultra marathon is how many miles?
So an ultra marathon
I think in kilometers nowadays, because I've been in Europe. So
yeah. So pretty much anything. So marathon distances are usually in miles. So 26.2 miles is a marathon.
Miles, yeah.
So an ultra marathon is anything that's further than a marathon. Okay. So a 50-kilometer race is usually like essentially the equivalent of a marathon in the trail running community. And then they have ones that they start at 50K, then it goes to a 50-miler, and then it goes to 100K, which is like 3 miles.
Which is crazy.
And then 100. And then 100 milers. So I guess it switches the units every other one. I don't know why. So I did my New Year's resolution for 2018 was to run my first ultra marathon. So people who know me from the back, I used to be like a powerlifter who lifted like 400 pounds. And I made this big switch to being like an outdoors dirt bag and like started running for ultras. So I just really like pushing and challenging my body. So that's like what I wanted to do this year. So I ran my first one back in April, and that was 34 miles.
34.
Yeah, that was 34 miles. And then I'm training for my second one right now, which will be in September. But I'm actually training for my second one because my boyfriend is doing 100K in his first 100-miler this December. So I'm training to pace him in those races.
That's ridiculous. Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, okay, I have a couple more questions now.
No, go ahead. I have nothing better to do.
I don't know. Okay, let's get into this. I wanna know your opinion on barefoot running and kind of shoes, minimalistic shoes.
So as someone who suffers from a lot of feet injuries just due to my stuff, I think that it's hit or miss. So there was that book Born to Run, and that was a big boom. Right?
It's not something you just throw on one day and you're like, okay, I got barefoot shoes, let's see what happens. This was my mistake. Yeah. I went out and
you have to train that.
Yeah. I went out and run only 5 kilometers with and the next day my feet and calves and knee, everything was just destroyed. So I learned really quick, okay, I gotta slow down, break my feet into it. But now I'm changing my mind now, and I think I need to go back to stronger support shoes with a little bit of stronger support, because my muscles just can't handle it, my joints. It's just too much impact.
It is a lot of impact. I think that's the same thing. Everyone wants an extreme. They either want like super fluffy, compression tight, high foam shoes, or like nothing.
Or
And I did do the
nothing,
minimalist thing. Like late high school, I had Vibrams in early college, and
like,
Born to Run came out, and that like made in minimalist running really like trendy because of those, the runners in Mexico that run in sandals.
Exactly.
But it does require more muscular usage, like your feet and your like
I feel like your calves,
muscles integrate with your shins and your calves.
Yeah.
So you're not using those muscles in that way. So it's like any new stimulus. So you have to like slowly build up to using that. So now I think that my opinion, and I tell most people, is find a shoe that works for your foot. So you're going to either pronate, supinate, have neutral shoes, flat feet, wide feet, fallen arches, too high of arches. I mean, everyone's foot is different, right? So if you go to someone who knows what they're talking about at a good shoe store that can assess your biomechanics of your running, they're going to say, okay, this is going to work best for you. And for some people, that's a really, really thin-soled shoe. And for some people, it's, well, maybe you need a little bit more padding in your heels or a wider toe box or a more narrow foot shape or a higher arch. And there's a bunch of variables that go into feet mechanics.
Now, if you have a flat foot, is it better to use like a minimalist shoe? And I guess if you have a strong arch, you don't want to use because of the tendency to pronate, or how does,
I think a lot of it comes down. So this isn't my like expertise area.
Yeah.
So
No,
if anyone out there is
loud,
listening, but I think it definitely comes down to your foot strike. So I'm very flat footed, but I'm a heel striker. So I ran in ultras for a while, which are zero drop, flatter. Like there's no difference between the heel and the toe. And I love them because they had so much room for my feet. But because there's no difference between your heel and your toe, and I hit my heel first, I wasn't like rolling. I didn't have any rolling. I was just like running like a flat-footed duck. So then I switched back to a pair of Brooks that had a bigger heel and like a wider, and I got them in wide, so it still had that wide foot box. So I think it depends on if you're a heel striker, you land on the balls of your feet, like just your running
less
mechanics.
About the shape and more about how you actually run. Okay, this is something I've always wanted. Well, I don't know. I could talk to an expert about it, but that's interesting.
Yeah. Because it all depends. I mean, how your running form is on top of your foot shape. So
yeah, exactly. Okay, I wanted to ask you another thing about ultra marathons. What kind of things do you? I mean, are you a caffeine drinker? Is another thing. Yes.
Yes, I am a coffee drinker. I'm a grad student, so therefore my blood type is caffeine.
My blood type is caffeine and
and wine.
Exactly. That's not a bad life. Can't complain. I was gonna ask you what caffeine obviously is the most common performance enhancing drug, right?
It's up there.
It's up there. So I'm assuming during ultras you have little snacks and little coffee things. And, I was thinking if I would ever to do an ultra, I'd have like 6 coffee cups in my pocket and like, a snack. I don't know. So what is your like race nutrition during an ultra marathon? What kind of things do you take before, during, and
That's a great question. And I think that I often tell people when it comes, because I'm really into like nutritional practices and sports nutrition, right? So I can kind of like write my own.
Right? You want to do
and
the best.
I know what works best, but with ultra marathons, it's this finicky monster where it's like kind of nutrition goes out the window because it's like, okay, well, what's going to make you not vomit? You know what I mean? So like there's ideal nutrition, and then there's like, okay, well, what can I actually is feasible for me? So you'll see that with a lot of, the elite of the elite ultra runners, you know what I mean? They're getting in their 70 grams of glucose per hour. You know what I mean? Like they're reading
on a timeline. Exactly.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. But for me personally, I do drink caffeine before. I use honey stinger gels, and they have caffeine in them. And every once in a while, I'll take those in. You just have to be careful because like sometimes, your GI tract, it's your best friend or your enemy when you're running that long outside. So I usually I always drink coffee before. And then if I'm really like in a lull, it's only like 32 milligrams of caffeine, but that's enough with the glucose to kind of give you that like
a little bump,
boost. Yeah. So there's definitely like caffeine ingestion in ultra marathons, especially when you get to like, you'll see pictures or videos on Instagram of people when they're doing like 100Ks, 100 milers. They're like shotgunning Red Bulls on the course.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So
like you need to. I remember I did what was it? A triathlon a couple of years ago. Not a long one. But I was like, I was addicted to coffee like really bad back then. I've recently cut down my intake, but I bought this caffeine gum and it worked amazing.
Yeah.
You know, I would be running, or I got off, you know, I just finished swimming, and okay, and I got to chew a piece of caffeine gum. I'd chew a piece of caffeine gum, then I'd hop on the bike, and, you know,
Yeah.
and it helped me a lot, actually. You know, it really, when I was tired or when I needed a little extra boost, it gave me what I needed.
And caffeine also slightly decreases your pain perception. So like rating a perceived exertion is like what people gauge intensity by, and you will say that you're working at a lower intensity at the same like difficulty when you're if you're a positive responder to caffeine. So it's kind of like a nice stimulus in that sense for people who work out. So
like a mental thing, right? I mean, running is all mostly mental, right? That's what everyone
especially at that type of distance, which is a big reason I got into ultra running, is I wanted a new challenge to push myself, and like I'm really into testing my limits. But I don't know, I just feel like if you get yourself to those mental depths, it just can help you figure out, you know what I mean, a lot of stuff. You learn a lot of stuff about yourself, but it's very mentally demanding. So training for my first ultra was like the hardest physical thing I had ever done, because I'm so good at weightlifting and circuit training. Like that comes easy to me after 10, 12 years of doing it, right? But that was just a whole new ballpark. So yeah, things like caffeine and mental strategies are your best friend when you're out there for like 6, 7, 8 hours. So
I don't know if I could do it.
But I guess in the regards to the rest, to redirect back to the original question, nutrition. So I did find out a lot about myself. So the way I eat on training runs was very different than the way I ate during the race. So I eat like if I go out for a normal training run between 15 to 25 miles, I usually eat gummy worms, a Cliff Bar, 2 Pop-Tarts, a 400 calorie pack, because I really am bad about eating enough. So I try to get like calorically dense things that are easy to get down. And then I mix that in with like Tailwind, which is a glucose like sports drink with electrolytes, and like Honey Stinger products, things like that. So I do like my poverty poor people fuel, because I can't afford all the high-end sports nutrition stuff. And then I mix it in with like the higher quality stuff. But I found during my race that when I actually like full intensity and pushing myself, after about the first 3 hours, I really only could get down liquid calories. So I pretty much did the whole last like 60% of my race with Gatorade and Tailwind. And then I would get like little handfuls of like M&Ms and pretzels at the aid station, little things that had salt and like some glucose. But most of it was just getting, and I know that you should get in at least 50 grams of carbohydrate per hour when you're doing ultra endurance activity. The most your body can handle is like 78. That's like the optimal, but you have to train to that. So I know my body can handle between like 50 and 60. So I would try like every 15 minutes to half hour, like to eat something, and making sure that like I was getting in like small doses of like 10, 20 grams of carbs in at a time. So like I was doing that math as I went through my race.
Really cool. That's actually spectacular. You know, I've never met someone that runs ultra marathons. That's really, really cool.
Yeah. So you're meeting the biggest baby ultra runner out there.
So you went from powerlifting to ultra marathons. Really cool. That must have been a shock on your body, right?
It was a very hard, humbling switch. I remember so when I was powerlifting, I actually wasn't very fit. I was super strong, but I wasn't like fitness fit. Like my aerobic fitness was trash. And so I remember that first couple months of getting back into running, and it was like slow, and it hurt, and it was humbling, and my body's changed a lot. I mean, I've lost like 17 pounds. Body's recomped. Yeah. I'm not as strong, but it definitely took it's taken about a year to get some solid adaptation.
It takes time. I mean, muscle adaptation takes time. You should know this.
Yeah.
Really cool. Really cool. Okay, what other questions do I have for you? I wanted to bring this up too, because I think it's important that everybody knows this. We were talking before about the famous Instagram fit people.
Yes.
So we were talking about how important it is to find credible sources, and not just to see someone and say, wow, they're fit. That means whatever they do, if I do it, I will automatically get their results, right? This is just a huge flaw in thinking that a lot of people have. I'm sure it makes you really angry. So what is
I've managed my anger better. So my take on it is, I used to get me very, very angry, to the point that I was like, okay, at least maybe people are moving their bodies. There's a positive to this. More people are exercising. I really just hate the falsification of the process of like what actually is going on behind the scenes, like physiologically, but also like the true, like, these people that are selling these products, or they're like, they work out for a year and they're like, oh, buy my fitness plan, is that they don't really have any education on what's happening in safe exercise prescription, but also like they're selling a one-size-fit-all approach. They're saying, oh, I did this random compilation of exercises. This worked for me. You'll look just like me if you do this. And a lot of, vulnerable populations, they're just so desperate for an answer, right? And I get that. Like, there's science, but there's also just like humans being humans. And they're like, oh, yes, if I do her plan or his plan, like, I'll look like him. This will happen in 6 weeks. This is going to happen. And then it's just kind of like, it's false advertising because you're not them. You don't have their genetic predisposition to muscle gain or fat loss. And like, also it's often people that were naturally thin, especially in women that were naturally thin. They put on just like a little bit of muscle and they look phenomenal, but they don't
always
sell
what it
it
is, actually.
as
It's
that.
always the girl that's really skinny, and the guys, actually the guys too.
Yeah.
And they start to work out a little bit, then they get some muscle and they look super fit, and then everyone's
Yeah.
like, whoa, tell me what you did. Teach me your
Yeah.
ways. Yeah, and it's dangerous. And the sad part is they make a lot of money.
And it does bother me to some point. I mean, I just started my business, but it only bothers me because it's like there's a lot of honest people out there that I'm like, hell yeah. Even if you don't have a degree, there's tons of credible coaches and trainers that are certified and like read the literature and are intelligent. And I'm like, hell yeah, like pay them to do that for you. Give them that money. But there's just so many people that are just, they've only worked out for a couple of years and they're profiting off of just people who don't know any better to know if they're getting credible information or a credible product. They don't know, or they feel scammed, or they feel like they were wronged. And it's just, I don't know, that ethics behind it makes me sad because I'm over here so broke that I'm talking to you on my phone instead of my computer because it's 8 years old. But on that note, I just don't, I'm very big in like proper education on exercise and nutrition and not lying to people and like admitting to people where I have advantages that they might not in fitness. You know what I mean? And not ever trying to falsify what I'm giving people, which I think a lot of fitness Instagram is people don't know any better. So you can sell any supplement, product, plan, idea, whatever, and 80% of the population doesn't have enough educational background in that field to say, oh, this is a scam or not.
Yeah, and it's so important to read the literature, right? And to know actually what's happening, and to know maybe if one paper, comes out saying this, doesn't mean it's, God sent and the Bible.
Yeah.
It means that they found these results and that there needs to be more studies, and then they need to confirm it, and then, it's a long process. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. It makes me angry too. But
I know, because I mean, anytime I post anything that's scientifically backed, either make sure that it's something credible that I like learned in a course, that it's in a textbook, or that it's like from papers that I read. And a lot of stuff, like it's usually like I reference like meta-analyses or like larger like bodies of evidence that are saying, okay, this is just like the general consensus right now where we stand, or you read a bunch of papers on one topic and you're like, okay, well, this is like the general trend of the literature versus just like, hey, I did 5 glute kickbacks and this is what works. Give me $50.
Look at my butt now. It's so nice. Yeah.
Yes.
Oof. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, anyway, so do you offer any sort of kind of guided nutrition or exercise plans for people, or?
Yeah, so I just started my Little Lyss Fitness this past semester / school year. And as of now, I do offer personalized fitness and nutrition plans, but I've also been working this summer on something super top secret that is pre-made plans, but also can give more of like access to my type of training to the masses. So that will be coming out very soon if anyone's interested in that. Yeah, so probably sometime in the next 2-3 weeks, hopefully released totally, and people getting started early August. So I've been working really hard on that in my downtime, all the downtime you have as a grad student. So yeah, as of now, I offer individual training and nutrition plans through my Little Lyss Fitness Instagram and website. But if you are interested in something that's a little bit of a personalized approach, but you still want some pretty rad training, I will be coming out with some stuff this summer that would be interested to you. Yeah,
we're going to link all that in the show notes. And yeah, like we said, definitely stop following Instagram people and follow Little Lyss, because she's awesome and she knows everything and she's a genius. So
I'm trying. There's definitely
advice. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, actually, I just came up with another question that popped in my head.
Yeah, go ahead.
Another thing that's really close to home. Something that I've always been interested in, even in the neuro realm, is the microbiome. And it comes in a lot in nutrition. Do you read a lot of papers on that? Are you interested in the microbiome? Do you drink kombucha? And or what is your take on the microbiome? and how to take care of it?
So I know a little bit about it. I wouldn't say it's something that I am credible enough to say like, yeah, you should definitely do this. But there's a lot of research coming out that like the microbiome communicates with the brain, right?
Exactly.
And the whole
That's
body.
my big interest,
And that your gut health is very dependent on your weight status. So they've done things where they've taken like, this might be gross, but they've taken like fecal matter from fat mice versus lean mice, and then put that in the other one's biome, and then the other one that like the lean mouse who was given the fecal matter of the obese mouse suddenly started to gain weight, and like things like that.
Well, they've done this in humans too, actually, and they've
they
done
just
it both
started
ways,
with that.
you know, and they've done it where like a skinny person got really fat, and then a fat person got really skinny, which for me is fascinating. You know, just something. It's crazy. It's crazy to think
and
about.
I think a lot of it they're finding out too is that like a great way to improve that comes back to eating a quality diet, and maybe we're seeing more of these issues because of those other things that are making up our diet. So a lot of people are like chugging kombucha and eating all these probiotics, which in certain circumstances is, you know, great and can be very helpful. But they're forgetting that like with all things, none of that stuff's going to benefit you unless your diet is in line. And you can do a lot of really good for your gut health just by eating like a nutrient dense, like high fiber.
Yeah, fiber
like,
is huge
vegetable,
for microbiome.
and like a fibrous, vegetable rich like diet. So I think that people forget that, and they're just like, you know, trying to sell the next probiotic.
You're
or
right.
kombucha.
I mean, that's exactly what it is. You know, your microbiome is like, imagine it's like a population, and it feeds on what you eat, right? So you eat carbs, and it'll feed on that. And the population will grow bigger if you eat more carbs, right? So it's like, it's all about balancing the different populations in your stomach. So if you eat a lot of fiber, you're going to, you know, favor one type of micro, you know.
Yes.
Biota.
And I will say most people are not eating enough fiber. I am so pro fiber.
Fiber,
like my clients, when I give macronutrients to my clients, I give them like at least 25 grams of fiber a day, because that's like the minimum. 20 to 25 is the range you should be hitting if you're listening to this. But I give that to them, and I'm like, listen, get your protein, carbs, and fats, but you make sure you get that fiber in for that for that GI tract health.
Exactly. Well, let's end. But before we end, I want you to tell us the top 3 foods for fiber. What would you suggest? Like, what kind of?
Oh man, I mean, my boyfriend and I, if you came in our kitchen, it's just like a vegetable paradise.
Fiber.
I mean, it's just my boyfriend's a little more extreme than me. He eats between 50 and 100 grams of fiber a day. He eats a lot of vegetables. I probably eat about 30 to 60. But honestly, just eating whole grain, making at least 50% of your grains whole. Whether it's whole grain pasta, whole grain bread, whole grain cereals, like making 50% of those grains whole. And then just, you know, getting 1 to 3 servings of vegetables at every meal. And fruit's great too. I mean, people are so worried about fruit making you fat, but the fiber content in fruit suppresses the insulin response, and it actually like isn't as big of an effect as people think. So just, you know, grab that apple instead of the candy bar. You know what I mean? Like make your carb sources whole grain, and then just try to include at least 1 handful of veggies at every meal, if not more. So it feels like vegetables. I'm reinventing the wheel, but just eat a lot. People just need more vegetables, man. Vegetables. I can't tell you.
Don't worry about fiber, just eat vegetables. I know that you're getting fiber.
Yes.
So. Okay. Cool.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, it's been excellent to talk to you. Thank you for coming on. Do you have any last words for our listeners?
No, I hope you guys learned a lot about the things that we discussed today. You can follow me at Little Lyss Fitness. That's on Instagram. I try to share educational content that's fitness related, but that's backed in science, in fact. So if you're into that kind of stuff, I would be happy to have you. And if you have any questions for me further, you can email me at littlelissfitness@gmail.com. All that stuff will be linked below. This was my first podcast ever, so I appreciate you guys listening to me, and I hope you learned something.
You did excellent. You were very well spoken. Thank you for coming on. And
Thank you.
I've read a lot of your posts, and they're really cool. So go follow her. She's got a really, a lot of really cool information. So thanks for coming on.